Evening, everybody. Good evening. This is Coach Sherri, Chaplain Sherri. This is your community pastor Sherri. This is Sherri from the 800 block of Mooney Avenue. And I am joined by my friend, Pastor.
Garland, Thompson. I need some more names like you, Sherri. You got like so many names. I need to be Chaplain Sherri.
Baby, there's a story behind that
I'm,
praise, so
I'm, finna-
don't even.
I'm finna be armor bear. I'm gonna be
There
armor
is
bear Sherri. I'm gonna be Sherri's armor bearer. That's what I'm gonna be.
there's a story behind that. You heard the
Mm.
woman say it tonight. You heard the woman of God say it tonight. All these platforms and they show me
Oh,
nothing.
have mercy.
That's what you heard.
I
The
did
woman of
hear it.
God
I
say
did hear it.
tonight.
Certainly.
And I tell you what, uh, Dr. Gina Marcia Stewart, once again, once again,
She preached her glasses
uh,
off. Got so good she took her glasses off. I said, "Ooh."
at the Methodist school.
Oh yeah, these folks. I mean, that baby with
So you can't just say that she acts one way in one place and acts another, you know, in
oh
another
oh
place.
oh no no
She
Hubbard.
is the same yesterday, today.
That's what the text say. Oh no, Reverend, that baby, she started, really in her theological pedagogy, and she kind of, but once they get a hold of you, you really got to let that thing go. It's gonna come out just as natural as it want to come out. And you would have
Yeah, yeah.
swore she was at a late night revival.
But it is a good example and it's really good segue of what we're talking about tonight. And welcome everybody. Welcome, Jared. Thank you so much. We are soon to be doctors come really March when we do our defense.
Certainly,
But for certainly May 18th is our graduations. And we are excited. We are excited. As they say in the church, we got one more river to cross. And we have no doubt that we will cross that river. Why? Because we have done the work.
certainly.
We have done the work. And so Pastor Stewart tonight preached and is a good example of when you bring learning and burning together.
Certainly, certainly. And
When you bring the academics and the scholar and the spirit is untouched, is unmatched.
yeah, and you need the duality of them both, because ultimately how she was able to wed scholars and theologians and give a exegetical breakdown of that text while also not making it like a lecture and hermeneutics. It was stupendous, and I mean I can never hear Dr. Stewart enough. I mean, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
literally listen to her preaching daily because it's so rich.
And you know what? We do need to make, the kind of work she did. What was yesterday? Tuesday? Yesterday,
Yeah,
Wednesday,
you're right.
Tuesday
You're
morning
Tuesday, Ref.
at the joint session of the National Baptist Conventions. The work that she did there, um, we know she did a good work.
Certainly,
But when you do that kind of work, it comes with a cost.
of course, of
You know,
course,
it comes with a cost because there were factions who didn't even believe that she should have been up there,
of course.
right? And even though some of those who were on the stage while she was up there doing it out of, this is what we have to do, um, everybody ain't happy.
Of course. Of course.
Everybody ain't not happy. So it's I the work that she did tonight. Um, I know that her body has to be tired. So
Of course.
I'm lifting her up in prayer, and I think that it would be good for all of us to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because as you and I talk about off camera, the strain and the weight she carried
Yes.
in these dualities of situations. Because again, yesterday at the joint board session with the National Baptist Convention, that was hostile environment because ultimately it were many people who invited her just because they were in Memphis and she is a states person in Memphis. So it will behoove us to invite
Mm-hmm.
her. However, the shenanigans and people walking out and people looking all uh like a stoic or a freaking
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
museum. You're
Mm-hmm.
just sitting behind them. Like, how do you hear good preaching? How do you hear the anointed woman of God echoing God's sentiments and you still sit there because it's coming out of a feminine vessel? Is that distort your ability to hear God because it's
Yeah.
coming through a woman?
Well, and obviously, if it bothered her, we don't know it tonight because
Well,
she left nothing on the table.
nothing at
Just
all.
because
Yeah.
this was a seminary, just because this was a hotel, didn't mean nothing. A
And
United Methodist seminary at that.
Sherry, I would ask, whereas she got some foolery yesterday, she got no resistance tonight. The church was full. And typically, I mean, this you and I talking, ain't nobody listening.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, folks ain't showing up to every night service because hell, this week you better tell Garland you coming. I mean, because ultimately, I mean, people ain't showing, but it was folks in there from, in the words of the great theologians, the Yin Yang twins. They was in there from the
Uh-huh.
window to the wall.
To the
They were
window, to the
in
wall.
there and them folks rushed the stage. I mean,
I
I'm
was
looking.
among them.
It was. I said, look at my P, her little short self trying to record this. She can't
But
even see.
that's okay. I got right on in front of,
I
because my
say,
people
P,
in Memphis was counting on me.
boy, they pushed her and I was thinking there, I'm sitting next to Dr. Moss or another sage who was with us. She's nudging me, and I was thinking, how how do you not see God's hand on her? Because I'm just thinking in a natural perspective, I don't know how she got the strength to do what she's doing. Because you
Mm-hmm.
went from preaching in Memphis, hopped on the plane, preaching here, two different environments, two completely different sermons,
Mm-hmm.
and you would have swore she ain't preached all year.
Yeah.
How hard
She
she preached.
she spared nothing. And I think that's what it means to be a doctor of the church,
Of
right?
course.
That you are doing work to help the church, practical hands-on stuff, right? And
Of
so
course.
there is the PhD that deals with the academic word, the research of it, right? and
Right.
and the work that we chose to do through a DMin program, a doctor of ministry program. Welcome to everybody who is has joined us tonight. This is my I'm joined here tonight with my peer, Garland Thompson. We don't have any stories about walking 10 miles from one city
You
to
wasn't.
another. We don't have any stories about shoes coming off. We don't have those kind of stories.
Not this
Hey,
weather.
Bianca, so glad
What's
to
up,
see you, my
Bianca?
sister.
What up, Bianca? Yeah, you almost walked my Achilles off in
Yeah,
August.
we don't have those
Yeah.
kind of stories. Tonight we just have Jesus and him crucified. That's the
Yeah, we
only
do.
story we got tonight.
Yeah,
Bianca, we were a little late because Dr. Gina Stewart did her good work and we had to come down
um,
from that high before we could come and
yeah,
talk to the people
there,
tonight.
there, Bianca, there's still timbers in the chapel, not chapel, in the ballroom downstairs. She scorched the ballroom in there. They gonna
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
send her invoice. But
Yeah.
yeah, she was
So
spectacular.
this is the kind of stories we have tonight. What we wanted to do is just to this is our sixth semester, right? This is the final semester of our DMin program, our journey to becoming doctors of the church. And so, what we wanted to just come in and share tonight our journeys and why we chose to do what we do. And where do we go from here? Now, we have done the research. We are ready to defend that research. But we don't want the papers, the documents just to be among others. We want to actually do this work.
Of
We
course.
want to do this work. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And Bianca says National Baptists are still recovering. So just imagine us being in the house tonight, um,
like a
under
wildfire.
the fire that came tonight on Tuesday, I already know that I was gonna be on the floor. I already know that.
Yeah. And ironically enough, before we dive into it, she spoke about fire. She, her
She spoke
sermon
about fire,
spoke
yeah.
about fire. So
Repairing the altar.
it's like it's like a poetic justice of we joking about fire and how she did things, and that's what's a text she dealt with in First Kings.
Yeah, yeah. How
You
you
know,
gonna bring, how you gonna be in the water and then you in the desert and you have um water?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She, I mean,
How you gonna do that?
and it
I,
was
I,
it was such a subtle
yeah,
excerpt because it teaches in seminary we read the Bible so fast we miss stuff. And how she just kind of popped that excerpt. And I was looking around, and I saw some people looking like, you sure right. There was a drought. I mean, because some folks, you read stuff, you become familiar with it, and you run past the red light, and you don't
yeah.
even see the subtle stuff that's in the scripture that you can highlight. Because she could have literally preached on that.
And to having gone to Israel and been around those deserts, water is hard pressed.
Yeah,
Water is hard pressed to, to find. So I can only imagine what that was on
sure.
Tuesday, because we are still recovering. But again, it shows what happens when you put scholarship and spirit together, right?
Certainly.
Some people think that you can have one without the other, but even if you had all spirit and no scholarship, right? You can get some stuff done. You can get some stuff done because God is going to protect the word in
Sure.
such a way that the people are not totally messed up. And certainly you can have scholarship and no spirit and still get something done. But if you put them together, Garland,
It makes the difference.
if you put it together, you can make some things happen, which is why I and I think I've been with you 3 years now. The reason why we have chosen to do the work that we are doing, and literally we are coming into this in the same vein in helping preachers to do
Yes.
better, to helping preachers to do better. So let's just talk about why we chose this, why we chose to do this, and I'll let you start first.
Sherry, honestly, it's a it was a pain for me to see and to hear and to know that there are so many people that are flooding churches every week, every day,
Mm-hmm.
yearning to hear from God, and so many people taking advantage of those moments, not really invoking God's presence and helping people to hear God, to navigate their situations, to find refuge and strength in the
Mm-hmm.
of God's word. Because for so long, and particularly since people who look like you and I, who was forced here beyond our will, they have been using the Bible as a weapon. And that book,
Yes.
400 plus years later, can
Yes.
still be used as a weapon
Yes.
if not careful.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
being weaponized weekly. And our
So.
goal is to help people learn who they are in God, and more
Mm-hmm.
specifically, whose they are in God. You got to know
Mm-hmm.
what God says about you. You got to know how God feels about you. You got to know what you can do and what you can accomplish, and not just giving people a bunch of empty calories. Just
Mm-hmm.
it can't
Mm-hmm.
just always be
So,
these praises go up.
am I hearing you say that on Sunday mornings people are getting empty calories?
People are getting
What
some
help me
people are
with
getting
that?
cotton candy on Sunday mornings. It's like they had a rodeo fair or something, And I'm even seeing now, Sherry, this just me and you talking, people just eavesdropping. I'm even
Mm-hmm.
seeing now people are so enamored with the internet, they going on YouTube and they stealing people's sermons and they
My.
reteaching stuff. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that is such an indictment on God to mean for me to say that, Sherry, as brilliant as your exegesis is, that God can't speak to me to give me something from my particular context to help these people. I gotta hijack what Sherry gave the folks in New Orleans or wherever you sharing at to bring it down to Houston as if God ain't still speaking.
Mm-hmm. 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 You know, listening to that, um, I think that you can listen to other people, um, and you may like the work, like, okay, so the work that Tuesday that Dr. Gina Stewart did, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We all looking for Claudia,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So um we don't see it in the text.
But without the scholarship, she wouldn't even know where to go with that.
Okay, so even though I may listen to her, now of course a sermon like that, if I went off to preach it, we already know because my brain wouldn't even thought that way, right? But
Right.
I think that we can be inspired
There, I,
to go a little bit um in another direction, perhaps based upon the context that we're in.
Sherry, I was inspired tonight. I mean,
Yes,
I was inspired Tuesday morning listening to Dr. Mary Moss.
yes, yes, yes,
Great
yes.
preaching
Certainly.
always inspires me. Let me be
Yes,
crystal clear. However, for
yes.
me to take Dr. Mary Moss's notes, who was sitting literally to my left, and try to repreach
Mm-hmm.
the same way, it will never come out the same.
It will never come out the same. And she did it and without notice. But a preacher always comes prepared
True. And in,
with
and
something.
in particularly a trained preacher. Because the
And
trained
you know
preacher know
why
how to quickly excavate something they looked at, pray over, saturate it with God, and give it to people in a way because she gave it to us in an academic setting, but in her unique
mm-hmm.
way.
But and also um to um a preacher must constantly be reading,
You feel to get messy.
should constantly be reading um all kinds of stuff, not just um the
You
Bible.
say it, Reverend, you're gonna get
You
you.
need to read the, going back to your point of what people are dealing with, right?
Yeah,
What people are dealing with that's sitting in your pews. This is your project. This is what you said you were working on,
of
Garland.
course.
So you need to be reading the newspaper. You need to be reading, medical stuff.
Absolutely.
You
You
need to
have
be
to be
knowing
well versed.
environmental stuff because these are things that your people are going through. When people are sitting in the congregation, they are asking, is there a word
Come on.
from the Lord?
Come on.
Is there a word for my situation? It's one thing to tell me what happened in Bethlehem, and you can't tell me what's happening in Baltimore or
Exactly.
Baton Rouge
Exactly.
or Boys.
Exactly. Because it almost infers, Sherry, that God only cares about yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Bible is a beautiful book. However, none of us who are listening to me currently were present for any of these things we read in the text.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do we believe that God has somehow stopped speaking?
Yes. Yeah. And so because we've walked this journey together, Bianca said I wasn't there. Because we walked this journey together, what I'm hearing you worked on was helping preachers to preach to help people live the abundant life
Mm-hmm.
that Jesus said he came to give.
Certainly.
And having abundant life is that my total being is cared for, my
Yeah.
mind, body, and
Has to
soul.
be.
That I'm able to eat the bread, not just Jesus being a bread in a
Of
starving
course.
land, but I'm able to eat here.
Of course.
I'm able to have affordable health care and all of those things. Liberation.
Of course. That's the pillar of my work.
Yeah.
That's the pillar because if we do not believe we are liberated, we will
Hmm.
live very restricted and conflicted lives. Because
Yeah.
why would I serve a God if I'm going to still be under the same bondage as prior to me getting salvation through Christ? It's pointless. I
Hmm.
might
Hmm.
well act a sanctified fool and bust a whole lot of hell. I might well just live my sin out loud. I might well just
Hmm.
share. I'm talking about live my best life. If I don't feel anything differently about my experience with God and how God liberates us is not by a bunch of toys and trinkets and money and houses and cars. That is not liberation to me. Liberation to me is me living unapologetically in who I am, me being
Hmm.
comfortable in the skin God has me in, me knowing that God can grant us stuff, Sherry, that money can't buy.
Hmm.
Liberation. I don't care how much money you got, Sherry. You can't buy happiness.
You cannot.
Excuse me, you can't buy joy. You can buy happiness.
Yeah, yeah,
You,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
because you
yeah.
can replicate happiness. You know,
Yeah, yeah, you can work.
I can go hit up Amazon. It can make me happy. I can go to the
Yeah,
mall and make
yeah,
me happy. But joy, you cannot buy. You can't buy
yeah.
peace.
And so what I'm hearing you say, and based upon what mine is preaching women matter, overcoming patriarchy, and establishing models that affirm preaching women in Southeast Alexandria, Louisiana, and beyond. So, what is all those 18 words saying? What is all of that
Look at
about?
this scholar give her 18 words. I didn't give her.
What is all of that about? Right?
Yeah.
It goes back to what you're saying that many women
Hmm.
are in
Of
bondage
course.
and are not able to be their authentic selves and walk into their
Mhm.
callings because of bondage. And it's bondage through
Patriarchy.
the word of God.
Yeah. And is governed by patriarchy because God ain't the
Yes.
one doing the constricting.
And so, no, I wasn't in Corinth. So I'm clear that he was not talking about me. But here's the thing, that wasn't my initial thought.
Yeah. Because that's what
As a
you handed
preaching
down.
woman in 2024, I believe, I don't believe I have evolved, thank God, because what am I doing, right? But growing up in the Black Baptist Church in the deep South of Louisiana, pre salvation, pre being delivered, I would have been among the ones who would have walked out on Dr. Gina Stewart yesterday.
Yep.
Now that's just being as honest as possible. Until God, I could no longer wrestle.
Yeah.
I could no longer wrestle. So the reason why I go so hard now is because I went so hard. Like the Apostle Paul, talking about persecuting the church,
Yeah.
I persecuted. And many people don't believe that about me because of the work that I do now. How could I not pass down that parted line when I had been trained, spiritualized, taught, preached to, that women had two places:
Kitchen,
the kitchen and the bedroom.
and then in
Right?
the church you could do a little decorating.
You can decorate. You can fry the chicken.
Mission,
You can
ushers.
do the Sunday school. You can do the youth and vacation Bible school and mission and stuff like that. And again, please let me just say this: nothing wrong with that.
Of course not.
If that's your gifting area, it ain't my gifting
Of
area.
course.
That's not the gift. That's not what God called me to. There's nothing wrong with it
Of course.
if you got choice.
Of course.
But if that's the only place that you can be, and so I was telling a friend of mine, because we got Genesis wrong, then that makes everything else be wrong.
Lord have mercy. Yeah. Are you
Because we
referring
got
to
Genesis.
Genesis, the third chapter of Genesis?
I'm talking about the theology that has been
I
passed
know where
down
you're
is that,
going, Reverend.
God made one, the male, and the woman only. And I heard somebody in a Sunday school class
So,
that wrecked me.
mm,
And so now I got to sit and do this here. Like I got
Lord
a
have mercy.
nervous condition, which I did.
Lord have mercy.
That God created man first, and then to improve upon man, God created that woman,
Mm.
right? So that she can make the man look better.
They said that?
It, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
Right? I'm paraphrasing. And so, but that was the sentiment.
Wow.
People saying amen, and I'm doing this here. I know they say, well, what's wrong with that girl?
Um,
Because this is what she doing, like I got autism.
Lord have mercy.
Right?
Yeah, I've heard something similar to that. I've also heard how people blame Eve for the fall of
Yes.
man, and they just, I mean, they run right past the stoplight. That indicates that Adam was there and said absolutely, positively nothing, and yet you ignore his silence and you want to condemn humanity on a woman.
I think that the biblical writers messed us up because they gave, I don't know if it was the original writers. Bianca will have to help me with this Hebrew and stuff. If it was the original writers or it was the translators, because Adam is human.
100%.
The humans were created together.
100%.
Right? We're both created in God's image, right?
Right.
So my work is also a liberative work
Certainly.
for women to know that they have options.
Certainly.
That they have options. Going back to Dr. Stewart's Tuesday sermon was, the whole reason Jesus got in trouble because he upset
Of course.
the status
Of
quo.
course.
He used women, and much like today, the women finance his ministry.
Yeah. Still financing the ministry.
so so my goal is to give voice to women.
Liberate them.
And voice is not just to speak up, but your total being.
Of course.
Your total being.
They have to know that God does not differentiate who God chooses to call. God does not say, well, I'm only calling males, I'm only calling people of certain complexion, I'm only calling people of certain height. You only got to do this or do that. Those women must realize that no different than God can call a man, certainly God can call you. And you cannot allow your pastor, your bishop, your apostle, your whomever to somehow arbitrate your call.
Now, I don't know, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, that's easier said than done.
Well, true, because
It's easier said than done, because if all the voice I've ever heard, it's just like telling a woman who is involved in domestic violence, just get up and leave.
Right.
Right? It's not that easy, because you have been conditioned. You don't know another way.
Mm.
Right? And so the question always comes up to me, are people, when they want to use an excuse, well, women are the biggest oppressors of other women, or women don't want to hear other women preach. Right? Well, of course they don't.
There's a reason to that, though.
There is a reason to it. Why don't? Because if the only person that has ever told me
Mm.
that women can't is a man, and I come along with my bald-headed, red lipstick wearing self saying, no, baby, correct, Paul, not talking to you. Let me give you the whole
Mm.
they turn their back on me. And I have a good friend that tell me, Sherri, everybody don't want to be free. I say, but yeah, they might not want to be free, but I got to tell them, Sherri, everybody.
You do yourself a disservice, Sherri.
Sherri,
You don't
everybody
tell
does
them.
not want to be free.
You do yourself a
And
disservice, Sherri, if
it
you don't tell
pains
them.
me.
You have to tell them.
Huh?
You have to tell them. You do yourself a disservice, and I believe, Sherri, God will hold you accountable for not telling them, because God gave you a conviction. Sherri, I cannot. I'm not talking. I'm not talking to you, Sherri. I do not believe that you are doing this, Sherri, because you are bored, because you have nothing to
No, I
do,
got lots of
because you just,
I make cakes, I put on
yeah,
makeup.
yeah, just because
I,
you
I
like to,
was told today I'm a social influencer, baby.
just like because you like to talk a
Social
lot.
media, I'm an influencer.
Lord, I'm gonna carry your purse around. Nobody, you're not doing this for the sake of, hey, look at me. You know unequivocally, and I love how you juxtapose Saul and Paul, because you have a very
Mm-hmm.
similar binary transition, because you were once oppressing women, and now, like
Oh yeah,
Paul, your pursuit of liberating them is resolute. You don't care who's
it's
listening. You don't care if you're the only short black voice in that room. You're going to stand up, you're going to speak up, and you don't care if everybody in there looking at you like you crazy. You're going to stand flat footed, because you know what God has called you to, and you know what God has liberated you from. So,
yeah.
how dare you go back to Pharaoh?
And here's the thing, as Dr. Dominique Robinson said Monday, ain't nobody asked for this assignment.
Man, don't you don't let's not, we talked about that. We talk about this often.
Who would want this?
Nobody with common sense.
Who would want this kind of lifestyle?
No, nobody. I'm telling you. Because folks, like we talked about, people who are really called by God to ministry, more often than not, they are going to resist before they surrender.
Mm,
Because they're gonna be like,
yeah.
God, you can't possibly call me. Well, let me just testify for me. God, you can't
Tell your own story,
you
Reverend.
can't possibly be talking to me. You gotta have the wrong number. You gotta be out of
Mm-hmm.
order. God, you know how much sinning I done did. I mean, clearly you ain't talking to me. And the beautiful burden of it. I mean, God wakes you up at random times of the day and downloads stuff
Mm-hmm.
in your share. Before we got here to Ohio, I got in the bed about 11 something, 12 o'clock, and I couldn't let a text down because God was downloading everything in me, wanted to just go to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. I like, God, do we got to do this at midnight, bro? I mean, why do we got to do this right now?
I got to go. You know I got to go in the
I
morning.
got to get up in 30 minutes, seem like, God. We possibly, can we do this later? And God, like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to go look this up. I need you to go do this. And I'm literally, because I didn't feel like getting out the bed. So I'm literally
Yeah.
with the lights off on the flashlight and trying to wake my wife up, looking up something, because
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
would let it go. And people, trust me, you got to know that you know that you know you called to this.
And I'm skeptical. We talked about this. I'm skeptical of anybody raring to do this.
Yes, I am too.
It's a really good sign that you don't even know, you don't have no clue.
Yeah, either you again, Sherri, either you're clueless or you're incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah. This calling has cost me friendships,
yeah,
relationships,
yeah,
um, all kinds of things. But I stand today to say all of those that I lost, I doubly gained because there's more for it for me than can ever be against,
100%.
right? And so my work is to, so what you hear us talk about patriarchy, what is patriarchy? It is male dominance. That's the total, that's basically it in a nutshell. It's male dominance in the home, the church, the workplace, the fabric of this world,
Certainly,
right?
certainly.
And it all stems from because we got Genesis wrong,
Yeah,
right? And so I got sense enough to know patriarchy has been here since the beginning.
yeah,
It's not going to ever be eradicated, but I can, the ones that God send my way, the goal is to help them to see that they have options. That this,
yeah.
somebody said, that they didn't trust, they have a hard time trusting, they trust God, but they don't trust God's people, right? A lot of things we say is the word, and Dr. Stewart said the other day, we spiritualize your isms, right? You hide your racism, your sexism, your hetero, how you say that one, when you are against the LGBTQIA plus
Oh,
community,
yeah,
right?
I can't think of the word. I know what you're talking about, though. I can't think of the word.
Homophobic, your
You're homophobic,
homophobic
you're hetero.
isms, right?
Yeah,
And you use the Bible to do it.
yes. And most of the time, you use the
And
Bible out of context. Most of the time, because,
yeah,
and again, we're not here to give a Bible study. However, you cannot literally look at one text in a singular context and just
mm-hmm,
pin it to something and say, yep, this is exactly what this meant right here. Because
this is
again,
it.
that's exactly how people use the Bible to promote slavery. They
Yeah.
would take one of the Pauline epistles, slaves obey your masters, and this is God's will for me to own you.
And the rationale was okay. Well, then they even got down to okay. Well, your soul can be saved, but your body belongs to me.
Yeah, you'll get it on.
Your soul can be saved, but your body belongs to me. And so here's my stance. Everybody can jump if you want to know Sherri's stance. I will stop preaching when the slaves go back to their masters.
You in great shape because that ain't happening.
I will stop preaching when the folk in Louisiana stop eating crawfish and crabs and catfish.
Good luck.
Now they got a better chance of going back to the masters and stop eating that seafood down in Louisiana.
Yeah, you got a better chance hitting the power
I
ball.
think I'm on safe grounds.
Yeah, you got a better chance hitting the power ball if you think people in Louisiana ain't eating no seafood. Yeah, you might well go get you a ticket. This might be your
So,
night.
so what am I saying is that you can't have one without the other. If you're gonna be a Bible literalist, if you're gonna be a word for word, cross every T and dot every I, when you get back to your masters, I'ma stop preaching.
And most people, Sherri, if we could be completely transparent, they don't want to be a Bible literist because you can't even walk into what's required of you biblically if you want to go down this road. Because if you take it in a literal sense, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your
Plug it
hands
out.
cause you to sin, cut it off.
And we ain't seen too many one-eyed people from I plus.
You mean to tell me that you ain't never did. Look at Bianca like a shrimp. How you like it, Reverend? Grilled or blackened? But you ain't seeing people do this type of stuff. So, but again, you say you want to take it literal.
Mm-mm,
You know,
mm-mm,
you want to go. You
mm-mm.
want to be under the law too. You know, we got the Ten Commandments. It was a whole. You missing some.
And so this is what the work that we are doing is to bring freedom and liberation,
Of course,
because we say a lot about Jesus, but he made his mission statement real clear.
certainly.
Luke 4 and 18. And it pairs real well with the scripture that you use to shore up
Isaiah,
your,
exactly. Isaiah 61. Yep.
yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. That's that to me is the quintessential essence of Jesus's ministry and every man, woman, boy, girl who's called to this work, teaching,
Mm-hmm.
preaching, whatever you call to. If you are not here to help people be better, then you're really missing the mark, because Jesus spent more time in the vicissitudes and on the highways and byways than he spent in the temple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the folks that Jesus liberated were folks who we would consider that we wouldn't even talk to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you call to this work and you don't have a yearning to help people, and Sherry, we've talked about this, it's so critical of what we do, of people's lives we impact, whether we know it or not. Because
Mm-hmm.
people perceive, people assume. Sherry, every time you stand, you've consulted God. God
Mm-hmm.
is giving you something to say, and this is what thus says the Lord. Now,
Yes.
granted, God doesn't send us emails. God doesn't text. God doesn't send you some sort of, okay, Sherry, this is what I want you to say. Literally, I'm gonna just send it to you. I'm gonna airdrop it to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
Sherry get up there and harm people with her words and do it under the auspices of God said it, now people are perceiving this is what God says.
So, so I like to call it theological malpractice.
That's a good one.
Theological malpractice when we recklessly, your word, without regard,
Hmm.
use these biblical texts, and it causes harm to those
Yes.
in the pew. And I'm sensitive to the harm that it causes to women
Yes.
when you tell her to stay, when you my mom stayed too long because
Yes. Yes.
the Bible says you're not supposed to get a divorce.
Yes.
I stayed too long,
Yes.
right? Um, Women stay in positions and situations too long, or even get in them because of the black and white word. Now, people will say, "Well, Sherri, you have a disregard no of the Bible." No, I love it even more.
Yes.
Why? Because when I have done my work and I see the riches that's underneath the text, come on, God, I see what you're doing. But so when we are reckless in handling the biblical text, we cause harm.
Yes.
And I think that that's why I saw what was happening, because it happened to
Yes.
me,
Me too.
right? And the reason why you're doing what you're doing is because some of the
Yeah.
pain that you experience by not having someone to preach a word that is going to
Liberate me.
um liberate.
Yeah. We cause irreparable harm sometimes by doing this to
Yes.
people, and we make what? Oh,
No,
I
I'm
see. I
laughing
see
at
Bianca
Bianca.
cutting up. And
Yeah,
we do
yeah.
irreparable harm because we make God out to be a lie. Because we are
Yes.
God's spokespeople, and now because people, fair or unfair, we can argue that a different day, ascribe
Mm-hmm.
us as extensions of God. So
Yeah.
now, as the pastor, preacher, teacher, leader is up speaking, and we giving people reckless prophet lies and all this other foolery. Now people are
Mm-hmm.
perceiving God out to be a lie because your spokesperson said this, and this ain't happening, or this is harming, or this is demeaning. And now God is being torn down because of my recklessness.
Okay, and it makes it very hard. So the cleanup person
If they
has
can
a
clean up,
very
Sherry, if they
difficult
can clean it up.
time. Yes, if they could clean up. But that person has a very different, because you sounded like the lie. The truth is sounding like a lie because the lie has sounded like the truth for so long.
Yes, yes. And now
Oh, that was
and
good
now we
right there.
crazy, Sherry. Because
And now
we
we
done went to
crazy.
got a little
Here
went to
uh,
little school, and now we think we better than people. Now we think we this, we think we
I just
that.
want you to know I just want you to know the basics. Can somebody just know the basics?
Exactly, because Dr. Stewart mentioned this earlier. We live in a very biblical, illiterate society.
Can't just say, oh, you know the story.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
And now we got Google, and people
Mm-hmm.
now are internet theologians and scholars, and unfortunately, the
Mm-hmm.
church is one of the very rare spaces where a person don't have to have any qualifications or credentials to say they're expert at something.
I heard Dr. Jamie Eady, and I'll always Jamie Eady Chisholm, when she was helping me in my project, said that it's in the church that 50 years later we can still be pushing the Sunday school, what we learned in Sunday school in the fifth grade, basically. That we're the this is the only entity that what you learned in fifth grade, your fifth grade Sunday school class, in the primary Sunday school class,
That's funny.
and you have not moved beyond it, and that has taken you still
Yeah.
beyond. I don't expect for you to know, as we were talking about, uh that it ain't gonna make or break you still saying that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. That ain't gonna make or break nobody. You
Yeah.
don't have to know about the J and the
Wow.
P. You ain't got to know about them.
Yeah.
Granny went on in with Moses being the first 5, and I
Yeah.
believe she just is sitting on the right side as anybody else.
Certainly.
But
Certainly.
using biblical text to demonize, dehumanize another is the problem.
That's where we draw the line there, Reverend. We draw
Okay.
the line. Yeah, because that ain't never our goal. And Sherry and I
No.
talk about this all the time. I mean, I'm willing to argue, Sherry, 80 to 90% of the stuff we learn, we will never be able to really
Oh
preach.
no. No.
Yeah, because let me get up there Sunday and say I'm preaching from the book of Maccabee. These folks don't think I got something serious wrong with it. I go up there and I open the Apocrypha up and I start teaching from it.
Yeah.
No, and God is gonna deal with me because now, Negro, you showing off.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
they don't know. They thinking apocalypse when you go up there. You talking about Apocrypha. And
Yeah.
but yeah, we sure will, Bianca. We plan on it. Sherry and I, we're gonna start a cohort. No, but
So
go
yeah.
ahead, Sherry.
No, I put this up to remind me the question that Pastor Bianca had. So after graduation, will you both continue discussions like this together? Which brings us to our point. So now that we're gonna have this, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Right? What are we going to do?
Yeah, to answer her question directly, yes, we would do. I mean, we'll have a multifaceted of things we're doing, from books to academies. I know you're starting your
Yeah.
academy in different training ways, because I want to take, some of the stuff I'm doing and transport it, because the work in which we're doing, although our context is as Houston and Alexandria, however, they're sufficient anywhere in the world,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to find women who need to be liberated and know their worth, their value, and that God can use them. And you're going
Mm-hmm.
to have people mishandling God's word.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So our goal is to not only do stuff like this, but further take it a step further, and Sherri and I do things so that we can just do our part, because God is not expecting us to save the world, and
Mm-mm.
none of us are oblivious to think that our project's gonna somehow make it where not a single another woman feels as if she won't speak into a call, or that every single person will properly exegete the Bible and preach and teach every lesson in a way that would honor God. That is a bit far-fetched. But if we
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
gradually move the needle, I think God will be pleased
Yeah.
with our efforts.
So in my as Pastor Garland talked about, one of the things I've been talking about for years, and I tried to work around it, and that's the Preachers Academy.
Mm,
Um, for many years, I ran an institute with my former pastor, Dr. Joyce Green. And I think I got one of the students here, Wanda Gilmore. Um, and we taught um, Old Testament, New Testament. We taught biblical preaching. We taught all of those things. And we did that for about 3 to 5 years,
mm,
right? But then I knew that um, I needed a credential.
yes,
I needed a credential. Um, Pastor Green, of course, he has his, but we this difference in ages, right? And as he likes to say, he has more years behind him than in front of him. But I knew that God had called me to a higher thing, and this would be my life's work. So I wanted to go to get my doctorate degree, because I don't care. I was doing good work then, right?
right,
So I didn't get this doctorate to learn how to teach.
right,
I didn't get this doctorate to learn how to preach. I have a master's in adult education, so I know how to teach. I know how to teach adults.
sure,
Halfway decent preacher, right? And so, but what I needed was, and I wanted was the credential
yes,
proper, so that I could expand my scholarship, expand my knowledge, so I can do what I need to do to curate the Preachers Academy.
yes,
And so um, I'm getting ready to launch that in August. I have a project manager that's tight, 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 right?
well, I heard,
Of of keeping these deadlines, right?
yeah,
Big, and I'm okay with that today, right? Because that's what I need. Because I know that I need to get this off. And I'm following the rules, I'm following the deadline so far. And so in July, I'm gonna June or July, I'm gonna offer a course, kind of like a free for all
sure,
course, and then August come back and um offer, really begin the Preachers Academy. Now the question has been asked lots: is this just for women? It's not just for women, but I, in creating this, I created it with women in mind.
right,
because they are the ones who have this struggle of, I know that God is calling me,
However,
but what am I to do?
yeah, yeah,
I know that I know God is calling me, but what is God saying? I know that God is calling me, but God don't call women, right? I know that God is calling me, or I sense that God is calling me, but I can't go forth because my pastor, my spouse, whatever that case may be. So, and of course, more books. Um, I'm working on one now that I hope to have out before graduation, and that's not even the book based upon our projects, because I know that you're also working on a book.
correct. Yeah, yeah. And I'm doing mine again, similarly like you. I hope to have it wrote up by graduation as like a culmination of this piece. Not to mention, like you said, our dissertations, how we can kind of put that into some sort of book form, and it's about utilizing our scholarship to help
Mm-hmm.
people keep moving forward as they grow in God, because we're not oblivious to think that people will just start massively entering in seminaries. That's
Yes.
probably unrealistic. However,
No.
if we
No.
can help to curate, to use your word, a similar seminary experience where people will be a bit better in what they do, because you got to take it beyond Matthew Henry's commentary, Google.
Now you're gonna leave Matthew Henry alone
You
now.
got to leave them. You got to leave
We ain't causing violence on
the
here.
ashes,
We
ashes,
doing real good. Now you messing with people gods, the King James and the
ashes,
Matthew
ashes
Henry.
to ashes, and dust to dust. And you gotta take this calling more seriously, like you say, so that malpractice won't continue to occur in pulpits
Mm-hmm.
across the world, because people are perishing from a lack of knowledge, and they are dying having either not heard the gospel or heard a distorted and deformed version of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
all I want to do is honor God and do my part. And I believe that's your testimony as well.
That is my, that is my testimony. So I would say that if you are continuing or are contemplating on starting this journey,
Hmm.
know what your end goal is.
Certainly.
Know what your end goal is. Again, I don't want to work in a research based academic setting.
Yeah. I'm about practical application.
I'm a practical application, and I believe that those who God have called me to, they are not in the academic world.
Correct. And the beauty of having this DMin as a scholar practitioner is you can kind of vacillate between the two.
Yeah,
Because if we
yeah.
think about even here at United, our dean of our DMin program has a DMin. The president of
Yes, yes.
United Theological Seminary has a DMin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as
Mm-hmm.
if you can't enter the academic spaces with this. It's just not
Yeah.
as heavily research based, because our goal is to add value to a context to enhance it or enlighten something or improve it, versus the PhD is to kind of add a different wrinkle that someone maybe not have discovered. And I didn't believe as
Mm-hmm.
well, Sherry, that that was my call to try to excavate a new wrinkle. I want to more so, it's enough wrinkles out here that I can help y'all with. I mean, I'm gonna let those
Yeah.
scholars do what they do, but I want to focus on the quote unquote boots on the ground. How can I help us be better
Mm-hmm.
in our responsibility to God's people? Because people are God's most precious asset, and how we handle God's assets is critically important because he called Sherri and Garland as shepherds, as stewards of my
Mm-hmm.
assets. And
Mm-hmm.
if we diminish God's assets, God's wrath will be unrelenting upon us. And I don't want any of God's smoke. None.
Yes. And again, know your end goal.
It's
Know what it is that you believe that God is calling you to. And if you don't know what God is calling you to, that's the first course that the Preachers Academy will be offering. And so you'll be able to, I think that course is going to be called God Call Me, but basically what is God saying?
yeah,
What is the call? Know your end goal, right?
have to.
That which means that you must know you and what call. I'm called to the academic world, but not to the university world, right? It God has given me the ability to break down complex um pieces of information to bite size where those who are teaching Sunday school, those who are teaching um, youth ministry, those who are preaching at level may not go to seminary. But when they leave me and the Preachers Academy, I want them to have an appetite
Yes.
to do better. I want them to have an appetite to do their very best. So
Yes.
you may not know Hebrew and Greek because I don't, but I sure know how to trace it back to get as close as to what I need to, and then I go to the other people who know it and say, "Listen, do I have this quite right?"
Correct. Correct.
Right? And so I know what my lane is, and it's a beautiful situation when we are each in our we're each in our lane.
You share it's so critical that we run in our lane. Scripture reminds us that, run the race set before you. Don't I
Mm-hmm.
can't worry about Sherry's lane. I can't worry about Bianca's lane. I can't worry about anyone else's lane. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I worry about your lane, that implies that God, I'm envious of where you have her running, as if God, you must have made a mistake. God, you gave Sherry my lane.
Oh,
Operate
that's the
in your
lane I
lane.
want.
Exactly. Operate in your lane. And not only will those people at the Preachers Academy have a yearning and a thirst, but you also give them a couple tools for their toolkit. Whereas if they never enter a seminary, you will be better from your time spent together. You will have
Yeah.
other ways of how you can be better, teach better, preach better,
Mm-hmm.
research better your sermons. Because again, guys, we are not suggesting that Sherry and I are just somehow the smartest people in the world and blah blah blah. But what we are saying is we can take a passage of scripture and go to the etymology of where this text came from, the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and understand it and trace it back to give you a proper exegesis of the original essence of the text while transliterating it to a 21st century context. And without training, no different than a medical doctor. Your
Mm-hmm.
surgeon went to medical school. Your
Mm-hmm.
lawyer passed the bar. And now,
Mm-hmm.
what's crazy is, Sherry, you don't have to be a lawyer to buy a law book. I
Mm-mm.
can go buy a law library if I wanted to. But until
Mm-hmm.
I go and sit for the Texas bar, the Louisiana bar, whatever state you're in bar, I will not be recognized as a practicing, excuse me, as an attorney, period, not even a practicing one, without passing the bar. And I always try to do is
So what you're saying, Reverend, so what I'm hearing you say is you got to do more than just open up the Bible and say, "Speak, Lord."
You have to. And now that was good in yesteryear because they didn't have opportunities. Big Mama and Pawpaw, they didn't have opportunities. God spoke to them in a unique way. However,
Mm-hmm.
God says y'all, meaning us, are afforded
Mm-hmm.
opportunities that they wouldn't. What's your excuse? They
Yeah.
did it in the hush harbors and all these other places. What is your excuse? You got pristine and prestigious universities all over the place where there is no more segregation. Negro, it ain't a school in the country you can't go to if you got the credentials, you
Mm-hmm.
got the recommendation letters, you got whatever little test you need to take. What's your excuse?
Yeah. Yeah. So as we come to the close, prepare for our close. This is the first close and gonna be the only close because we gotta get out of here in the morning. We ain't go, I know you Baptists and everything, but we ain't gonna have no three closes tonight. Welcome, Charnel Jones. I'm so glad to see you tonight, Reverend. I am so glad to see you tonight. Um God has you speaking of gifts, my friend Reverend Charnel Jones from Houston, Texas, God has given her a beautiful prayer ministry, right? A beautiful prayer ministry. She's credentialed, she has an MDiv, but I tell you what, when you need somebody to pray you through, that Reverend Charnel Jones is the thing, is the one, because she not only has a gifting for it, she has a passion for it. She has a calling to it.
Outstanding.
And I tell anybody I can do anything in the church, but you really don't want me to. I can do it because I've been in it so long.
Certainly.
But you really don't want me, counting your money. Not that I can't count, but I don't have the patience to want to find the penny.
Lord have mercy.
I want to go in my purse and get the penny, but the people who call to finance and know the importance of having your good books, they want to go over the money 55 times
Lord have
until they
mercy.
find the penny.
Lord,
And it ain't
that ain't your ministry, Reverend.
that ain't my ministry. Go to the purse. While you turn your head, I'm gonna go to the purse and get a penny, put it in there, and say we found it.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As we
Oh, the sage has joined us.
what did the sage say?
And she walks in her
And
lane.
she walks
Anointed
in
woman.
her lane. Yes,
The
yes,
esteemed.
yes. It's just so beautiful when we walk in our lanes, Garland.
Yeah.
When we walk in our lane. Now I know we said we're gonna have a one close, but this is the one. This is the one. And we'll end with this question. At Garland, over these 3 years,
Yeah.
what has been your biggest takeaway, regret, however you want to frame it as you do reflection?
Um, I guess I would say my biggest aha moment was not knowing how much having the right person you connected to persevere through this, the value of it. Because as I've told you offline, I won't mind saying it publicly, that this journey would have been a much more difficult to do without you accompanying me side by side as we walked and accomplished this together. Because it's not that Sherri wrote something for me per se, but
Mm-mm.
having someone to help you see blind spots, having someone to help you stay on task. Hey, Reverend, you did this, you did that. Having someone who loves you enough to tell you, yeah, I think you should look at this, reconsider this. Have you considered this? And it's just those little subtle things that you don't even realize you're missing
Mm-hmm.
until you actually have them. So that piece for me is the most prevalent because, as we talked about before, a DMN program ain't teaching you how to preach. It ain't teaching you how to really do exegesis. If you believe you get into a DMN program and they're gonna have you going into it, that's more seminary. Now, I took preaching classes at Virginia
Yeah,
Union.
that's
I
MD
took
of work.
systematic theology. I took Old Testament, New
That's
Testament, Greek.
MD of work.
Hebrew. That's MD. This ain't it if that's what you're looking for. This is okay. You have a particular pain point. What do you desire to share? And they help to ensure that whatever your pain point is, there ain't no personal altercation. Like you can't be the only one that feel this way. If ain't no
Mhm.
other scholars, no other theologians, nobody sees your pain, chances are you got a beef with somebody that you just
Yeah.
trying to exercise it in this D-Men program. And they're gonna make you turn around and go back to the door. Either you figure something else out or this ain't for you. So
Now,
that's
look,
why.
hold on, girl. Let me. So you saying pain? Stay there a little bit because I just want to help the people. What we're talking about when we're talking, we're using pain point, but we're really talking about the problem that you want to address, and the
Correct.
problem that you want to address emanates from the pain you experience because of that problem.
Correct. And that said pain should be something that others have experienced, or you can find solace in other theologian scholars that wrote to something in a similar vein.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, hey, this happened to me in Houston with this particular context. Can I find some thought leaders who share similar context with me who can support my position, which you
Mm-hmm.
would soon to learn will be your hypothesis? What is happening? What are you trying to eradicate or fix or improve? And is there other folks who have spoke to this pain in some particular context?
Mm-hmm.
As you know, you have to have over 100 thought leaders, books, articles, peer review. This can't be stuff that you Googled on Wikipedia.
Now Wikipedia.
Ain't no Wikipedia. You gotta dig and research and read and find people to be in conversation with
Yeah.
so that whatever it is your heart desire is, that pain, how you can seek to identify and what ways you think this work will help to improve it.
Yeah. So, for example, my pain point was rejection,
Yes.
rejection, being rejected as a woman in ministry.
I need to grab my charger. Keep talking. I hear you.
Being rejected as a woman in ministry, the loss of friendships, relationships, um, my own battle with it, right? And I know that it's a problem. It was a problem for me. And I know it's a problem because other women
Yes.
come to me because it's all that I talk about,
Yes.
right? That they have the same problem. So I had a context. You have to have a context, right? That you're going to work in as a test case to test out your hypotheses to see if what you have crafted is going to help alleviate the problem,
Correct.
right? So that's what it is. You got a problem. My problem was women in ministry, particularly, and I'm real careful about not just women in ministry, but preaching women, because women in mission is a ministry,
Sure.
right? And so people will, oh, I believe in women in ministry, yeah, because you believe in me being a missionary, but I'm talking about preaching women.
Or the culinary ministry.
Yeah, that's a big difference. So preaching women who are rejected, shunned by patriarchal systems and practices,
Mm-hmm.
that's my problem. How I seek to alleviate that is to provide women with models to overcome the objections, because the
Certainly.
objection is going to always be there, right? So I said, if women participate in a 6-week empowerment program that helps to give them voice and to see that they are not the only ones going back to the 1800s with Jarena Lee and Julia Foote and all of those. They ain't the only one. And then Pastor Bianca showed me something just yesterday going back to the 1500s.
Lord have mercy.
So there is nothing new. And we just go to the Bible. It's the most patriarchal book ever put together.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. All the
So,
authors are male.
yeah. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so when you do your D-men work, you're looking for a problem, and most of the time it is a pain that you I have identified in your context or that has personally affected you, and your goal is to develop something that's going to alleviate that pain so that others will not go through that.
And to add to that, Pastor, before we go, it also should be transportable.
Yes, yes,
Because although Pastor Sherri is writing about Southeast Alexandria, Louisiana, I assure you it works in Idaho, it
yeah,
works in Iowa, it works in Minneapolis, it works in New York, it works in the Midwest, it works in the South, West
yeah.
Coast, East Coast. And you have to know what that pain is. And you go find like minded scholars who can speak to, yeah, it is important how we preach, how we teach. Yes, it is important that women know their worth and their value that God has been calling women since God created them. He's
Mm-hmm,
always utilized women. So
mm-hmm.
why all of a sudden now she can't open the book and decree what thus says the Lord, and she can't do this? Why again?
Because
Just
God
because of
blessed
her
her
anatomy?
and put God wrapped her spirit in a female body.
Yeah, you mean to tell me her anatomy is what disqualifies her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas God used a woman to birth his only begotten son. You think God couldn't allow Jesus just to appear? He took
And
Enoch up. You think he
as
can't
Dr.
send one down?
As Dr. Jean Stewart said in her use the woman at the well to go and run uh a revival in the city
Yeah, yeah,
and
she would
save
have
the
told
whole
it all.
city. Yeah, 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 the whole city.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, and so Garland, likewise, this journey would not have been um the same without you.
So,
I see Bishop elect Winton said, that was big when we talk about how important it is to have a peer, somebody to walk with you. I tease, all the time. We have a little age gap between us, and you're much younger. Um, I said, when something get a little bit, say, here, look, you read this, you got a young mind, right?
y'all
And,
always say that.
and likewise, you'll say, I need some sage advice, right?
Right.
So it worked well together. And I will say that it was a God thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It was
And
a God thing.
we got to have a live about that one time of how we came together because it was so God inspired. Even
Yeah.
before we were, well, at least for me, before I was accepted into the program, how we
Hmm.
connected and
Hmm.
how this was worked out. Before we even knew nothing about our projects, before we knew anything about what we was trying to do. What's up, Knox? What we did is how God orchestrated that thing, and we ran from there. I'm talking
Hmm.
about very, very early in this project. We tethered to one another, and
Yeah.
this will far exceed May 18th. To
Yeah.
further answer Bianca's question, trust me, it won't stop at commencement.
Yeah.
We
And
will be
and I
looking.
never end when we talk about this to give honor to your wife. I never um failed to say that because uh the long conversations we had, anytime we thought about we wanted to say something to the other person, we
Yeah,
we we
we
picked up the
do.
We picked
Yeah.
up the phone, and not to my knowledge has she said anything that
Yeah.
it was a problem, because I always wanted her to know, even though we have not met yet in person. Hope we're gonna
Right.
meet for graduation, right?
Yeah.
Um,
She'll be a graduation for sure.
um, and so I never failed to, to honor her, because
Yeah.
the talking that we did, and the laughing, and then the trips that we had to take, and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so I always want to honor
Yeah, and
her.
she knows the
um
symmetry and what we do and the
yeah.
passion because she hear how we talk about it, and she knows that hey, you talk to Sherri, she'll ask me, hey, you talk to Sherri, because she
uh
knows what we do and how we vibe. Because again, because of how much of a woman you are and how much you honor her, and plus she knows you talking to somebody who share your passion, your zeal for ministry,
hmm
and that ain't my lane like that.
and
So
she clear that ain't her lane, right?
as clear as night is the difference from night to day. That ain't her space. So
Yeah.
I want you to have someone that you can talk to and be vulnerable enough and be honest enough with, that you can wrestle through things with. Because if I try to wrestle with some stuff with her, all I'm gonna do is give her a headache.
Yeah. And that's very, 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 very
That's
important. So I never leave this space when we're talking about this, to honor her. So,
absolutely.
Garland, I'm so glad we had this time together.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Yeah, this was a good intensive, a unique one because
Yeah.
I
I'm
can
basically
remember.
getting nothing.
Yeah, I can remember when we were, first getting here, and we was every Garland, you signed in and grab me some notes, Sherri, grab these little papers. And now, because of our work, we came here with nothing to do. And I've been telling people all week, your goal is to write with intentionality so that when you come to semester 6, after I
Keep
checked in Monday, if I had a jet waiting on me, I could have got back on the plane and
yeah,
flew back
yeah.
to Houston.
Keep
'Cause we had
up
nothing to
with
do.
your writing.
Keep up with it.
Keep
Right.
up with your writing, because the first class we went to, they telling us about something happening in semester 6. And
Yeah.
our mentor tells us about, why you telling us something about happening in semester 4 and 6, and we in one. We don't even know what this word means. We don't even know
Get,
what hypotheses mean.
get there quicker than you think.
But you get there quicker. And so I am now we are editing now papers from people who, started like they're in semester 2 and 3 now, and
Mhm.
we're trying to tell them, listen, y'all got to keep up, because semester 4 is over.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going down after semester 4. All your papers should be written. You ready for IRB? You ready to do your first candidacy review? Is you have to defend your first 4 chapters, five
Yeah.
chapters.
Yeah. And it's important, Sherri. I cannot emphasize it enough to not say just to turn something in for the sake of placeholding a place in Canvas or on the system.
Yeah.
Write like you are submitting it for your final document, because life be life, and time gets
Yes.
away from us. And before you know it, people get burnt out, people get exhausted, people get overwhelmed. And you don't want to get behind writing 20, 25-page papers with 20, 30
Uh,
sources. If you get behind, they're gonna feel like an avalanche.
because you're doing more than writing it.
Yes.
You got to know it. You got to know that thing for yourself. Because you can write, you can have beautiful, they gave it as an example. You can have beautiful written words, but you don't know what's there. So when it's time for defense, it ain't in you got to hide this thing in your heart. And Garland tells this story about this little lady asked me, you tell the story,
Lord
Garland.
have mercy. I,
And we got to
I didn't
go.
see. Yeah, that's it. That's our third close. You know, you're a Baptist preacher. Come on, one
I know.
close. I didn't see your sister in the Lord, but this was
She was
two. I
here.
didn't see 2 semesters ago, right before we did IRB. I'm sitting
We were in our B
in
class.
IRB class. I'm sitting at the table with Sherri, as we often did. I don't know, for whatever reason, I get there late. I go places late all the time. Sherri is sharing with this woman her project. This woman is
She asked,
of a Caucasian persuasion. So Sherri is
she
like the Enoch. He was trying to ride and he was getting them, he wanted to get baptized. Right. That's what Sherri was doing. Sherri baptized this lady in such a way where the lady was looking so profound at what Sherri was telling her and so mesmerized about these preaching women. And this lady was like, God, I just can't wait to read your work. So I get to the table. I say, Sherri, what in the hell you did to this lady? And Sherri had blessed this lady in such a way that this lady might join the academy. If we get her she's something to be your first one to sign up for the academy. Sherri.
It's in my heart. This project is in my heart. This work is in my heart. I am so clear about what God has called me to do. And she asked me, Garland, I saw her. She said, "Oh, how did your project?" I said, "My project went well. I'm through. I'm through format control. My chapter 6 is written. I'm just here. I'm like a bad child this week. I'm just sitting in the lab and messing with people as they go into class because I ain't got
I
nothing
know
else
that
to do."
sister went looking for you because boy, you set her ablaze. And what's crazy, guys, this class had nothing to do with telling people this information Sherri shared. I think Sherri, this lady gave actual,
She asked me what my product was.
and
What my
Sherri
project was.
laid the hammer on this lady by telling about a project. And I was just perplexed that Sherri had blessed this lady. This lady was, I mean, she was like stopped in her tracks. It was like she saw God almost. She was just she did it. So Sherri, yeah, you got one right there. If nobody else believe in your work, certainly she
She did.
does.
Yeah. All right. Let us prepare to go out of here. Thank you guys for joining us. And I know we've talked a lot and we've joked a lot, but we do need you to continue to pray for us because March 23rd, we will do our final defense.
Yeah. All the
And by mine is at 10:30 a.m. What time yours
at
is,
noon. Well,
Garland?
noon.
Okay, noon. So by 2 o'clock,
Either we're gonna be rejoicing or on the
you will
news.
be calling us.
Either we're gonna be
You will be
rejoicing
calling us.
or I'm gonna be on the news. One of the
You,
two. Either way, it's gonna be something to
you'll be
see.
calling.
Uh
It's gonna be something to see.
Yeah, but yeah,
We're
guys,
gonna be.
thank you for taking some time to listen to eavesdropping. But yeah, March 23rd is coming where it will be the culmination of all these work, these late nights, these papers, these sources, these revisions, and so forth and so on. Where honestly, at that moment, like salvation, the moment you finish, you are saved. When you accept Christ, I know you want to get to the water, but you're saved in that moment. And the moment we defend and they tell us, congratulations, you have successfully defended your dissertation, you are Reverend Dr. Sherri Brown Jackson at that moment. The graduation in May is
It,
just the outward expression.
and so the graduation is just baptism. It's
That's
just an
baptism.
outward
Yeah, that's the
show.
baptism. Graduation is baptism.
It's just an outward
You're
show
saved once they tell you congratulations, they sign their documents.
of something of a work that's already
Yeah, it's
done.
already done.
Listen, y'all be blessed and may all be well
Certainly.
with your day.
Yeah, yeah.
Bye bye.
Good night, guys.
Pray for us,
Please.
please. Bye bye.